Alright, so quick notes on the AS650. When you first plug it in, power it on, it's going to take a while to come up. Once you hit that power switch, you don't want to go just turning it off randomly. It will mess up the printer. Leave it on and you'll turn it off and on through a menu system, and it'll tell you when you can turn that switch off. So if I hit shutdown here, it will eventually come up and tell us when we can turn that power switch off. There's really no need to turn that power switch off after you have it set up and going. See, now it says I can't turn it on. Turn it off. Let's give it a few seconds. I'll turn it back on. And now it's going to take forever to boot back up, so I'm going to pause this. While it's booting, let's go over a few things. You have to make sure you use ink that's made for this printer, or it's not going to be detected correctly. Comes with some warnings about how to put the cartridges in correctly so you don't tear up the back of the cartridge. Please review them, and then it'll save you a lot of money. Here's what. Installing the cartridge. The big thing is you're trying not to rub those pins in the back. So when I do it, I try to keep towards this wall. And then I'll let the clip take it back. If you feel any resistance, stop. Something's not right. When you install the cartridge, the printer will detect it and should actually tell you which one you have installed. You have a knob on the side here to raise and lower the print heads. When you're moving the print heads to align them on a piece, like if you wanted that line more at the top, turn your print heads up a bit. That'll allow, when you loosen this, it'll allow this to slide back and forth easier. Each head does 1.5 inches from top to bottom. To move an image or address up and down on the mail piece, you're moving these print heads. So if I want to do a return address and indicia, I need to line these up with the top of my envelope. You can see in there, each one of these has a blue line to show you where it's going to print. So if I feed one through here, I can see where this bank's going to print on the piece and try to align it visually. If I really want to get to the top edge, I move this up a little bit more to right about there. Turn this back on. Now I can still feel this is tight. I really don't want it that tight. I'm going to loosen up a little bit more. Should feel a little to no drag. And under the print heads. Under the roller in between there, that's a different story. You have outside rollers that can be moved on the outside edges of the envelope. Make sure those rollers are not running over anything you're printing. When setting the separators, you have a lever on the side, push it down. Now that releases the separator seals. Pick them up. With a number 10 envelope, I usually set it to 2 at first and see how it does. Lock it down. Oh, I've got 3 in here. I got more. Lock it down. We'll take the top one out. And I'll stack some in here. To the test, I don't have the guides or anything on here. I'm just going to quick test. Try to fan them back when you're putting them in there. Let's try test print. I'm going to try. Let's try 3 of them. Right now it's at 200 dpi, so it's not going to print that great. Increase the speed here. Tell it to print. There's only one cartridge in there, so it just printed that. Now if I needed to get that printing closer to the bottom, I would loosen this print head and slide it down closer to the bottom of the envelope. To go, if this was a layout on the computer, if I wanted to move any of this element, I'd have to move it left and right on my screen. Before you start, it is a good idea to do a purge pattern and see how your print cartridges are doing. You go to slow speed at 600 and tell it to print. And it should give you a nice solid pattern for each cartridge. When you're not using the cartridge, take them out and store them. To me, the best way to store them is a Tupperware container with a moist cloth. I use saline solution because it doesn't get moldy. The bag doesn't get moldy. If you just use water, you're going to open this up at some point and it's going to smell and be moldy. You don't have to wipe. You could wipe the cartridge off, but you don't need to. It's going to act like a humidor. See, we got a bunch of different cartridges in there for different stocks that I've been using for probably 2-3 years now. To me, that's the safest way to put it back. If you're going to use the clips that comes with it, make sure you clean off that pad and the contacts with a lint-free cloth before you stick it back in there. Some more directions on how to clean and store them are on suppliesformailers.com. The ink for these units is on suppliesformailers.com. And so are the feed rollers, separators, segments here are pretty easy to replace yourselves. The rollers, they're a bit more complicated, but the segments are pretty easy, just one screw on each one of them. Sensor, let's see if I can get a pen. Sensor is partially there and then a hole right below it. Every so often you should blow out the area there and get any dust off the sensor. The rollers, don't clean it with alcohol or anything too strong. If you can, I'd recommend using rubber cleaner rejuvenator. It puts the oils back into it. I'll lube them up pretty good with the roller cleaner. Just spray this right on a rag, and then let it sit overnight. And sometimes I let it sit overnight, and then I'll come in the next day, and I'll actually, if I can still feel it oiling, I'll wipe it off with the rag. Just be careful you don't suck it in. You might want to actually put your separators all the way up when you get to do it. Just be careful, like I said, you don't get your hand or your fingers sucked into the machine.